So now comes the interesting part of installing the electronics. And the first thing I want to do is to test out that my receiver is working and that I've got all of my trims centered. So I'm happy that this is all bound up. We've got rudder. I've mixed rudder with aileron, so I've actually got rudder control on my aileron stick as well. So I've just got the one stick and then throttle on the left there. Haven't got the motor hooked up at the moment, but I might do that before I install the receiver into the fuselage. But I've also got the I've got the push rods made up already, and we'll go through this process. But I'll make some more. But as you can see, I've put some angles in here just to stop any curve in the piano wire, and also it stops friction as well. So it's they're angled so that they're not touching anything as they go through the body of the aircraft. So I've got them on both the elevator and the rudder as well. We've got some little angles there that just help with making sure that everything runs smoothly to the receiver. Okay, let me go and get some mounting pads, and we'll get this into our fuselage. So I've got these two little double-sided sticky pads, and we're going to use the technique that we've recently adopted to keep the power wires out of the way of the cogs of the servos on board by routing it back over the board and up the back like so. And this is going to sit into the aircraft and positioned so that the back edge of the receiver is sitting right up against that back wall like so. And so we'll actually thread this up through and through this cavity here, so that it's properly out of the way. Now let's just get our receiver out again. So in mounting this, what we need to do is put two of our pads either side of the of where the wire runs onto the PCB. So we essentially need to, I don't think I've got any scissors. It's quite easy with scissors, but we'll use a knife. So we'll cut a couple of strips. There we go. And we'll put one side. Like so. Now avoid putting it over the cogs at the front there, because any contact with that large cog, and that will jam up the servo. So you want to keep away from there. And obviously we've got a bit of a tail hanging out the back there, which we can just nip off. So make sure that's all nicely pushed down. And then our next strip, we'll do exactly the same with. Pop it down like so, flush with the board, not overhanging at the front, and then take that off as well. Careful you don't cut through the antenna or the power wire while you're doing this. There we go. those. So that's that done, and we've got that channel running through for the wire to go through. And what we're going to do now is with our second pad is completely, let's just get rid of that extra bit, is completely cover. Let's just peel off the other backing paper. So we'll completely cover over the wire, just make sure it's in place. And this should be the exact width of the PCB on which the receiver is based. So that should go over there, all the way to the back. And once again, we've got a bit of a hang over of material to remove. Once again, very careful not to cut through any of the wiring. There we go. Right, let's get rid of all of those bits. Into the bin. So now we've got this surface here, which is going to come into contact with the plate here, and as I said, we want to get this, the back edge of the receiver here, as far back to the bulkhead here as possible. And positioning, obviously, we want to make sure that on this side here, the wire running to the tail feathers has enough room to come in without impacting on the sides here. So we'll dry run the position, probably easiest. So we're going to pop the power battery wire in like so, and we'll just pull that up into position. And then maneuver our receiver, power wire, into position exactly where we want it. The antenna is snagging at the moment, so just move that out of the way, and then we can see where we can put it. Now that's actually causing a bit of an issue at the moment. Let's just fold that over. There we go. So we haven't got much side-to-side movement. The width of the aircraft is only a few millimeters more than the receiver itself, but a fairly central position with equal distances either side of the cheeks of the aircraft will be absolutely adequate for what we need it for. So let's just maneuver this out so I can take that backing strip off. There we go, and then we can place the receiver exactly where we need it. There we go. So that's now in place, rather undramatically, and we've got our power cable sitting where we need it. Excellent stuff. Okay, the next phase is to actually create our push rods for the tail feathers. So you'll need your bag here. And you'll notice the only difference between these two parts is that the little Z bend at the end of each of these, one of them is in line with the adjustment hoop here, and the other one is at right angles to the adjustment hoop. Now the one that's at right angles is the one that you use for the elevator. So what you want is that the that adjustment hoop actually loops downwards. Obviously it's poking up at the moment because this is the bottom of the aircraft, but you want that pointing downwards, and the Z bend to go from the inside to the out through the control horn. So before we actually pop the control rod into the fuselage, we're going to add a couple of very simple bends to it. So let me just measure. So from the hoop, if you come 40 mil, it's hard to see, so you can see the hoop there. So if you come 40 mil ish there, and with the adjustment hoop pointing upwards because we're upside down at the moment, you want to create a little bit of a bend. Now let me just check my 40. I'm not entirely sure I stuck with the plan there, so I've gone down to 35. Let's take it out. There we go. That's 40 on that side. So keeping the hoop upright, I'm going to bend the, where is it? There we go. No, it's not that one, it's the other one. Oh, wow, okay. I am going mad. That's the one there. So, yes, there we go. So, from my 40, I'm going to bend away from me with that hoop facing up. Okay, for some reason, okay, I'm going to get more metal on the holding stakes. It started twisting, so there we go. So I want to bend that in. That's probably a little bit too much, but a fairly shallow. It doesn't have to be exact, just to get a reasonable angle on it. A little bit more maybe. There we go. And that gets it into the fuselage in the area that we need it. So, like so. And then travel along from that bend .80. So just about there. And as I said, it doesn't have to be absolutely bang on. And then with that hoop still facing upwards, we bend it back into line with the first part of the control rod that we bent. So There we go. So we put this little angle in it so it gets it into the fuselage and over to the side that we need it. Like so. So obviously this is too long for the aircraft at the moment. We are going to cut it down specifically for where we've located the receiver within the model. So this obviously is going to go onto the other side, which is the rudder. And once again, with the hoop facing up, we need to get this into the fuselage. Let's see. So that's our new one. So if we come along, this time it's 50. So 50. So it's going to be from the rudder there, 50 along. We're going to bend that into the fuselage subtly, and then from that bend we take it 70, about there, and once again just make sure we're going in the right way. Yep. We then want to bend that back so it's parallel with the last section and the first section, like so. Okay, well, we can now start to determine how long our push rods need to be, or control rods. I'm just going to go and get my little marker pen so that I can mark on the material before we start bending and cutting. Okay, got my pen. Let's just take a look at what we've got. Let's get rid of the old push rod, and let's start with the elevator. So it's going to go in this side, and that wire needs to go all the way up to the front hatch. Nearly there. There we go. Just grab that and pull it through, and then on this side I'm just going to attach it to the control horn. Now, the easiest way to do that is if you grab the adjustment hoop and with some pliers or some good tweezers, preferably metal tweezers, just bend the control horn sideways, pop the, I'm using the last hole, pop the Z bend through, and you're there. So that's now hooked up to the elevator. So we now push up the other way. I can't remember which one is elevate. That's terrible, isn't it? I should know these things inside out. Let us just switch these electronics on. And elevator. So yes, elevator is this side here. So that's what we need to hook this control rod up to. So you can see that we've got the control rod coming in here. Let's move that out of the way. We've got the control rod coming in here. We've got our servo arm here. Now the servo hole that I'm going to use is the one that's closest to the rear. I'm just going to mark on top of the servo where the center point of that is. So I'm actually going to snip off the wire so that it falls inside the actual aircraft itself. Have I got the tools to do so? Let me just, I was going to use the cutters on these, but I don't think they're good enough, so I'm going to go and find my other cutters. Here we go, industrial strength. So I'm just going to snap that off there. Always useful, bits of wire. So now this is lying where I need it. I'm going to set my elevator so that it is in line with the thrust line. So it's actually, because of this slight curve on the horizontal stabilizer, if I follow the line down there, it's actually downwards. So I'm going to push this slightly upwards, like so. And then move my elevator control rod onto the servo, and then hold it in place where I'm happy the elevator is sitting, and then mark that point where the line on the servo and the wasn't working and the control rod meet. So we have a mark. Good. So what I can do now is, with my pliers, my little needle nose pliers, is just grab that mark where, so I'm just grabbing the just aft of the mark. I'm just going to put a little shallow bend in just to make sure that I know where that is. I'll just double check that that's where I need it to be. Yeah, that is. I'm just holding the elevator up slightly in the position I want it in, and I'm just checking where my bend is. And that's how we find it. So now what I'm going to do is just disconnect at the rear here. So just a reversal of what I did to connect it. And then take the entire rod out. And if I just pop that to the position that it was going to be in, like so. Now I can complete the bend on this, and once again it should be in 90 degrees to the loop, the adjustment loop on there. Just make sure exactly where it should be, and then slightly. So there we go. Now that at the moment is around about 90 degrees. I'm going to take that further. So that it comes back on itself like that. And then I'm going to remove material until I'm left with about 6 mil. So that's what did we end up with? 6 mil. So we've got a little hook return there, and that's how I attach it. So let's flip this over. Now with the hook on the end, it actually usually becomes a little easier to get through. Now once I get to the pocket that's got the battery wire in, I'm just going to move the battery wire so that the control wire goes the right side of it. It's not going to be impacted or rubbing against it. And then before I hook up the tail, I'm actually going to hook up that little L that I have created. And I'm going to use, once again, a good pair of tweezers or a small pair of needle nose pliers and just bend it slightly so that that little L goes through the servo hole. So, my eyes. Come back. There we go. So you can see now the servo rod coming through, the control rod coming through here, and then through the servo hole at the back of the servo arm. So, and that little black bit on top, that's just where I marked it with the pen, so I knew where it was when comparing the wire to the servo, so I could get the right position. So hopefully now, when I hook up the tail feather, the elevator, it should be in a reasonable position for control. And there we go. So we've got slight uplift there, but it's in line with the thrust on the aircraft, which is what I wanted. And obviously if we need to make any adjustments, we've got the adjustment of the loop there. We've got the adjustment on the trim on the transmitter, and we've also got the sub-trim options as well. So there we go. So that is the elevator hooked up. The rudder works in exactly the same way. We've put the bends in. So we literally thread this through on the other side and go through exactly the same procedure as we did with the elevator. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, but I'm sure that you have got the hang of it now, so that you won't have to listen to me bore you anymore. But just to reiterate, the wire goes in, cut it short so that you can manage it and get it down by the side of the servo. Mark the servo hole position, compare that to the push rod, mark the push rod, bend it slightly, bring it back through, bend it to that complete over L shape, and then push back in, hook up, and go from there. Oh yes, trim the L first to that 5-6 millimeters of excess, and always go through from left to right. Going the other way, you will impact on the servo motor, and it'll cause in the worst case scenario, for the servo to catch, overheat, and die, which means that the receiver is pretty much useless. That's how you hook up the tail feathers on the Micro Aces Aviatik Berg D.1. So here we have the both the elevator and rudder hooked up. So hopefully you can see now the how the controls work there, and obviously so that's all sorted now. I reckon before we put the top wing on, which is kind of the last part, we've got a few other bits and pieces, a bit of detailing, struts at the back on the tail, etc. to accomplish. But I think what we'll do is we'll get the motor installed, so that we've got everything going on up front here before we come to as I said, put the top wing on.